What if I told you the exact day you're going to die? Not someday, not when you're old, the exact date, like a countdown that never stops. And the scariest part? You wouldn't die immediately. You'd still have to live every day knowing it's coming. Would you live freely or would you panic forever? Close your eyes for a second and imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning. Your phone lights up. A notification you didn't sign up for. It says your final day, 14th October 2047. No explanation, no warning, no way to delete it. And suddenly, life doesn't feel normal anymore. Even your room feels different. The air feels heavier. Because now, time isn't just passing. Time is running out. At first, you'd probably laugh, like, this has to be fake. But then you check again, and again, and again. And the moment it feels real, your brain would split into two people. One version of you says, okay, live fully, do everything. The other version whispers, what's the point if it ends anyway? And that's where the real horror begins. Not death, but the waiting. Because knowing the end date doesn't just change your future, it changes how you experience today. You stop living days, you start counting them. Let's be honest. If you knew your death date, you wouldn't become peaceful. You'd become obsessed. You'd start doing math in your head. How many years left? How many months? How many birthdays? How many sunsets? And the worst part, you'd start attaching meaning to everything. A random headache? Is this the beginning? A bad dream? Is this a sign? A normal day? Am I wasting my limited time? You'd start panicking over things you never cared about before. Even scrolling for 10 minutes would feel like a crime. Because now you're not wasting time. You're wasting life. Something interesting happens. After a few weeks, you stop being scared. Not because you healed, but because your brain gets tired. So you enter the YOLO phase. You post more. You travel more. You speak louder. You stop caring what people think. You start doing things you always wanted to do, but there's a hidden sadness in it. Because deep down, it's not freedom. It's pressure disguised as freedom. Because now every moment has to be worth it. And that's exhausting. Imagine feeling guilty for resting. Imagine feeling guilty for doing nothing. Imagine feeling like even peace needs to be productive. That's not living, that's performing life. And then, one day, you're sitting quietly, maybe after a long day, and you realize something terrifying. Even after knowing your death date, you still worry about the same things, still overthink, still doubt yourself, still procrastinate, still fear judgment, still feel stuck sometimes, because the problem was never that you didn't know life was short. You already knew. The problem is, we live like we have unlimited emotional energy. We spend it on proving ourselves, impressing people, staying in toxic situations, overthinking what doesn't matter, holding pain we should have released. So even if life becomes shorter, we still waste it in the same old ways. Here's what psychology says. Your brain is not scared of death. Your brain is scared of uncertainty. That's why the death date feels both terrifying and comforting, because it removes the biggest fear. What if something happens? Now you know when. But here's the twist. Knowing the date doesn't remove pain. It creates a new kind of anxiety. Deadline anxiety. The anxiety of, am I doing enough? Am I living correctly? Am I behind? Am I wasting it? So you don't become free. You become controlled by time. And that's why some people would live better and some people would break. But imagine something else. What if your death date is far away, like 40 years from now? Would you feel relieved? For 1 week? Yes. Then you'd go back to normal. You'd still delay your dreams, still ignore your health, still tolerate disrespect, still say I'll start later. Because humans don't change when they know. Humans change when they feel. That's why a breakup changes you. That's why a health scare changes you. That's why losing someone changes you. Not because you learned something new, but because suddenly it became real. And the truth is, we don't need a death date to wake up. We need a life moment that finally makes us stop sleepwalking. So here's the real question. If you knew your death date, what would you stop doing immediately? Would you stop begging for attention, proving your worth, staying where you're not valued, waiting for permission, punishing yourself for your past? And what would you start doing? Maybe you'd call your parents more. Maybe you'd stop delaying your goals. Maybe you'd finally choose yourself. Maybe you'd rest without guilt. Maybe you'd stop living for people who don't even notice your effort. And the craziest part, you don't need a death date to do any of that. You only need courage. Let me tell you something that might sound strange. The purpose of life isn't to live forever. The purpose is to live honestly, to stop wasting your love, to stop wasting your time, to stop wasting your voice. Because one day, whether you know the date or not, life will end. And the only thing that will hurt is realizing you were alive, know you were breathing, but you didn't feel alive. So don't wait for a countdown to start living. Start living in small ways. Today. Not perfectly. Just truly. If this video hit you, comment "I'm awake" and tell me one thing you'll stop doing from today.